Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Parkitect Campaign. And in this episode, we're going to be tackling Biscayne Beach. In the last episode, we tackled Habico Harbor, and that was way harder than it looks. I will say that. So we did complete that after a really long and gruesome time. So hopefully this one won't be as bad. But here's the description for Biscayne Beach. A bustling beach city provides a strip of land for the development of a theme park under the condition that all rides have to be free. The winters can be rainy, but otherwise you can expect perfect beach weather. So the scenario goals is to have an experience rating of at least 80%, have at least 600 guests in the park. The optionals are to have a cleanliness rating of 75% and complete all the non-optional goals by the end of December year 2. So with that being said, let's get into the scenario and see what we got going on in here. All right, so we load in. We have a nice beach going on here. Let's pause this. All right, so we zoom out. We have our entrance here, and basically the way that we're gonna be making money in this park is by entrance fee. So $1 will definitely not get us anywhere. So let's already automatically drop that, make that like $5. So people will come in, and we'll be making a little bit of money, if any. This is a nice entrance building we got here. This is gonna be our goal theme, and along with these nice island almost themed buildings. So we have a super long strip of land. We have a depot down here. Okay, so the goal, I guess, for this park is to get as much money right off the bat as you can from the entrance. Since we can't make individual money like from rides, we have to get people in the door. So the way we're gonna do that is, I think we're gonna start it with a roller coaster. So we have the carousel, Ferris wheel, spiral slide, and teacups for our calm rides. We have our swinging ship, Twister for our thrill rides, and 3 roller coasters: junior coaster, mini coaster, and wooden coaster. So this wooden coaster is for sure gonna have to go in right off the bat, and we'll probably do like a original wooden coaster style where it goes just down and back, and maybe down and back again. That way we can save space, and also get people in the door so we can make money. So that's gonna be the plan. Transport ride, none. Water ride, we have a log flume. Although I don't know about water ride since the beach is right there. Well, I mean, we could probably use it. Okay, so we have a nice plan going on here. We have a hot dog stand, umbrellas. Umbrellas will probably be pretty important when it snows and stuff for the winter. All right, so with that being said, we are all set for this scenario. So we'll be back after this cut. All right, so hopping right into the action, as I said in the intro, we are going to be building this huge, massive wooden coaster that is going to span the stretch of the whole backside of the park. And this is going to be a pretty classic or typical wooden roller coaster. It's going to be an older one. It's not going to be like a GCI. It's going to be basically airtime hills and turnarounds. The only unique part of it, I would say, is going to be probably near the ending, where it does a couple of different weird banking maneuvers, but nothing too crazy. Basically, it's just a bunch of floater airtime and ejector airtime. And this thing picks up some speed. I will say that I tried to end it pretty early on just to make sure, just to get it a quick cycle through, but it doesn't need it. It goes a lot more than what I originally have it at, and you'll see that we're gonna be doing a couple of trial and errors with this coaster. So for the current layout, it starts horizontal to the entrance of the park, but that is going to change, and then it's just as the way it is right now, it banks into the lift, and goes up the lift, and then does an airtime hill, and then turns around and does a couple more airtime hills, and then we're working on the supposed ending for the coaster, where it does this weird banking maneuver that will go over a path that will come later on, and then it goes into the brakes. But as you can see, this coaster has already started to change. The station placement has just been changed to being vertical along the, compared to the entrance, and it's also parallel to the brake run, so that way it just turns right into the station. And that's me doing some test runs. This is not going to be the final layout, because when I did this test run, the when it hits the brakes, it didn't really slow the train down. All it did, it hit the turnaround really, really hard and then slammed into the station, and it would have been a really, really rough braking. So basically, we're gonna draw out the coaster a little bit more. And the way I'm doing this is I'm just adding an extra turnaround, a lot more airtime hills, and then it's gonna go about till the first drop, and then it's gonna turn around again and do a couple more airtime hills. Right, that's what we're doing right now on screen, and then it's going to turn back under the track and connect to this weird passover element, the into the airtime and then bank out. So, and then that's going to be the final layout for this coaster. So that was a pretty easy coaster, I would say, to make. It took a couple times just to make sure I wanted it how I got it. I wanted this to draw in a lot of people. And saying that this can't make any money, it's really just the park. This line's going to be packed through the whole scenario. So it's going to be really just a draw to the eye, I would say. Now, a mistake I did make was to leave even though I said in the intro that I was going to try and bump up that entrance price right away, I never did. I waited and I was making like $1 per person coming in, and that was probably the worst mistake I could have made in this scenario. And it doesn't really affect me until the end. It hasn't affected me yet because I've used all my money that I had, and we're gonna go to the mid course once we get that low on the money. So in the mid course, I'll probably discuss what's going on and what the future plan is. But for right now, we are working on this entrance plaza area. I wanted to keep this theme very, very simple and light colored and a lot like the entrance, as because that's usually what the theme and immersion rating is going to help. Is you have to keep it with the theme of the scenario. So we are going to use these pergola not borders, but wooden roofs, I guess, for a lot of buildings. And I use that light brown, I guess, or tan stucco color. So that's also a color that we're going to be using, and a bunch of wood and maybe some bricks, like the tropical looking buildings like that. But with that, that's just kind of the architecture that's coming in. We haven't done anything with the roller coaster station yet. That is still to come. We will get that done eventually. And there's also going to be a little bit of path variation. We're going to go from wood to this nice kind of concrete, and then it's going to go back to wood and all that. But we have added a second ride, which is the Ferris wheel, and that Ferris wheel is not really too impactful, I guess. It doesn't really have that long of a line, or as long of a line as I wanted it to. Um, it is on the other side of the roller coaster, and the logistics of this park is gonna be super weird, I would say. The exit to the roller coaster is right next to the Ferris wheel, but there's also a path that goes under the station and next to the exit that will take you to the entrance of the plaza area that we just created, and there's also a tunnel that will take you under the little pre-lift hill section, and that'll drop you off into the second plaza area that will be in the concrete and where the Ferris wheel is. But that's just kind of a little bit of logistical stuff, and it'll get weird as we keep going, and as more rides come in, the paths are very unique, I would say. But we are now working on the station. We have been for a couple of minutes, and this one is I'm really happy with how this one turned out. It's a lot of windows, it looks like, and I wanted to keep this very airy, and I used some glass and then some pillar or the borders, and it really looks like a tropical building, to me anyway. I think I would find this somewhere on the beach. It kind of looks like a restaurant building, almost like a crab shack, if a crab shack was a little bit more elegant, I would say. But you can see, like, looking at the line for the roller coaster, it's just jam packed, and I didn't have any haulers into the park, so I don't know. I guess I started this park off very badly. I really wasn't paying attention. My shops weren't getting the supplies they needed. I didn't up the prices for the park, so I'm making like $1, and it's really, really not helping. And then it started off bad, and I really think it can get better. I have a plan going forward. I have researched some rides, so we got a good amount of those, and we'll look at that in the mid course as well. But as we move back towards the video, we have made another queue cover. This is a really weird lemon yellow colored, I would say. It's kind of bright, and it's really just the cover for the Ferris wheel. And the only reason why I actually put it in there is because, for realistic purposes, it's under the coaster. So a lot of times, if it's under a coaster track, you're gonna have a cover. So I put a cover there. And then we're putting in another ride. This is gonna be our third ride. So this is the Twister, and I know this ride doesn't really get popular in any scenario that I've played, but it gets a little line for it. I think it's just because it's like $0, so people are willing to ride it. We're gonna do a nice cover for this as well. Since it is a flat ride, it's low to the ground, so it's just gonna be this nice pitched roof, I guess, that's going to be four corners in, and then with a little spire on top with some white borders, and we have the chocolate roof. So that's pretty much it. We have some pillars going in all around, and you can see that line is about half full, and then that's pretty much it for this part. We are going to add one more ride. Well, no, two more. I take that back. We are going to add the pirate ship ride. That's a I would think that's a classic ride to go into this area since we are on a beach. Makes sense. But we're also going to put in a carousel. That's going to be the last thing we do. And the building, I will say, got a little bit wacky. You guys will see that in a couple of minutes when it gets there. But it did get a little weird, I will say. Now, you can see now that if you look at the money, we are at like $2,500. So we're running really low. I just put in the carousel because it's a cheap ride, and some people will go to it, especially if it starts raining. It'll keep people flowing through. But this building got super weird, and I wasted a lot of money on it. And you did see, or you might have caught that when I opened up the ride interaction, I looked at the cost for the log flume. I do want to incorporate a log flume into this area, and I was actually going to have it going through the coaster area. So basically, I didn't really have to do any theming to it at all or anything. It would be pretty much covered through the wood of the coaster, and I think that'd be a really cool interaction factor. But um, it's just going to cost a lot of money, so we might not be able to do that. I do have another ride that would be able to fit in there if we can't put in the log flume, although I really do want to put in a log flume. Now, talking about this weird building before we head to the mid-course, it's a red slanted roof with glass combination and black pillars and black borders. It's really crazy. I wouldn't say it's nothing too crazy, but this is what it is, and I guess it's just kind of how it turned out. But as we finish up this building, why don't we head to a little mid-course and talk about what's going on? It is currently September year one in Biscayne Beach, and we have negative money. We have 257 people in this park, and you can see that the coaster line is booming. Everything else really is eh. So we're not really making money at all. We're just going down. The price for the ticket price is $20. I did eventually bump that up. I just didn't bump it up fast enough, I guess. We do have our shops functioning over here. We only have those two. I added a little bit of grass and some things. What are those called? Architectural stuff, I guess. Just for some nice little, I guess, I don't know. And that's Bankruptcy. Okay, well, we can do a loan, I guess, just to stay out of it. We're probably going to have to do that anyway. So, why don't we hold on really quick and ride this ride before we close down this park, just so we can ride the roller coaster. Then what I'll do, oh, look at that, we're at the top of the lift hill. We'll just ride this one. And then what we'll do is we'll take a loan, because I think that's going to be the only way to get out of this, is to take a huge loan, get a bunch of rides going, and then hopefully, by some manner, be able to get this park done, I guess. I really don't want to have to start this over. That would really suck. And this is the first time I've actually seen the Bankruptcy in a long time, like since one of the very, very beginning scenarios. But this ride is really, really fun, I guess. You can see all that airtime hills that they just went through, and into that final airtime, slowing down. They still do hit that turn really, really hard and go into the station. So now that we rode the roller coaster, that's the big thing that we got to do. But moving forward, we can talk about that really quick. We have our Ferris wheel here, the Twister, the not the Ferris wheel, the swinging ship, and then we have our the go karts. That's not a go kart. That's a merry-go-round. So I guess we're gonna probably put a bathroom stall right here. And looking at the rides we currently have, I wanted to put a Skyfall. I think no, not there. I wanted to put something there that I can't remember what I wanted to put. So maybe we'll end up putting the log flume here, and it'll just go through out right here. Um, that's or yeah, I think that was the other option. Although I thought I was gonna put the Skyfall here, might not work anymore. We might have to do some padding variations or something. Or you know what? The reason why it doesn't work is because we don't have enough money to place it. That's why. So that'll probably end up going there. We'll make it really tall, make it really fun. Coming down all the way down here, we will probably add our log flume probably down here, right here. We'll do our spiral slide over here, and we'll put in basically every single ride we can and try and get as much money as we can. We'll do a mini coaster probably because it costs less money, and we'll probably put it right here or back in this back corner here, and that should be pretty much the rest of this park, and hopefully we can hit the goals. And speaking of goals, we need an 80% experience rating. We're at 72, so that shouldn't be too hard. But we need 600 guests in this park. That is probably going to be outrageous. And December of year 2, we are in October of year 1, so we have about 1 year to do it in. So if we take a loan, which I'll probably do right now, just so we can get us up and going, take this one, and we'll get a bunch of rides done with the 16K, and then hopefully that can slingshot us into more, and then if we need to take another loan, we'll take another 16K, and that should 100% be enough, because 32,000 is a lot of money, I would say. So with that all being said, we can head back to a time lapse and somehow hopefully pull this out, and we'll pass the scenario and we'll get on with the next one. Okay, so we are back in the time lapse and we're gonna be banging out a bunch of different rides at the beginning. I took a $15,000 loan just to get it going. So the first ride we're putting in here is this drop tower. We're gonna cover this queue over here for two reasons. One, we don't really have much protection from the sun and the rain, and another part is it's right next to the coaster, so it kind of needs a little bit of debris protection, I would say. So we're gonna do these kind of metal roofs, I guess, and those are used around the buildings around this park, and then with some brown borders. So really inspired from this scenario as a whole, and that's something to get your experience rating up is actually to use the architecture around the scenario. So that's what I'm going to start trying to do. You can see I'm actually starting to incorporate brick now with the restroom stall that is going in right next to the queue for the carousel and this drop tower. And I kind of struggled for the roofing on this one, but I went with it. It looks a little awkward, but it looks way better with these little brown borders here. So after that, we are going to be working on some more rides. So we added a second restroom block, though, because the first one was way over by the entrance, and there was not one for this middle section. We're going to be putting in one more near the end of the time lapse as well. But now we're putting in our second ride of this part of the time lapse, which is the Gravitron. This is a really nice ride. I use it in almost every single park that I've made in Parkitect, if not all of them. But it's a really nice ride because it operates in the rain, and I don't have to worry about anything that goes wrong. Basically, people will ride it no matter what, and it's a pretty good moneymaker, I would say. And now we're moving on to the third ride. So this third ride was a little bit more challenging to get done. It's the log flume that I was talking about, and I wanted this one, as I said, to be really intertwined with this wooden coaster, really just because I didn't want to waste any more space than I already have with the wooden coaster, and a log flume does take up a lot of space. So I weaved it in and out of the wooden coaster, and it looks really cool. The only part that I don't like is that it eliminated a lot of the supports, and it kind of looks unrealistic. But at the same time, it looks really, really nice, and it's a pretty short layout, so it gets a lot of people in and out very quick. We're only gonna have 5 boats on it, but it basically goes out of the station, goes up a lift hill, turns, goes up the second part of that lift hill. I would say it's all really one, and then it drops down under the lit or the actual first drop of the roller coaster, and then it kind of does an S bend out of there, and then goes up the second lift hill, which is way bigger, and then it turns around and does almost the exact same element as the coaster, and then does a drop. and then we are into the station again. So that's pretty much what we have going on there. And now we are going to be working on what we just finished, the queue for the Gravitron. So we got the red roof. We kept it with the carousel, kind of just the theming there, just to kind of keep it how it was. And now we're putting in something that I was debating putting in for a long while. And I wanted to put this shop in here between our Twister ride and the pirate ship. You just saw I placed that down with the little storage place. I forgot what it's called right now. And we actually had to move the pirate ship ride just because of the space I wanted it to take up. So we ended up moving everything around just to get everything we needed. We put the umbrella shop in and a soft drink shop. So because two things. One, it started to rain, which is the first time it started to rain in this scenario, I believe. And second part is that the guests were requesting somewhere to drink, so we put in that place. So we have two of those there, and it's really near the middle of the park, so it was needed anyway. But that's just a little bit of why I did that. But the rain is going to be a big factor in this second part of the time lapse. There's actually a lot of big factors going in, and it's going to impact a lot of decisions I make. So this first thing is because of the rain, we're doing a full custom cover for the teacups ride that we're placing, and honestly, I love how it turns out. It wasted a lot of money and a lot of time. And then another part is that this kind of scenario got really hard as we got to the final stages. You'll see at the end of the time lapse that we will hit that green bar that we need to hold for a month. But after that, I spent maybe an hour and a half trying to actually complete this scenario, and that's just because the rain. There was crashes near the nearby parks, safety stuff, all these stuff that kind of went in, and vandalism was a big part of it as well. So it all got a little really crazy, and eventually I got done with it, but it did take a lot of extra effort that I wasn't planning on putting into this park. Now you can see for this custom cover, I'm doing a lot of steel bordering. I wanted this to look really, really cool, and I think one of the parts to that is doing this custom steel to the glass, just to kind of give it those borders, because without it, you can't really see it, and with these borders, you actually can. So we are about done with this ride here. We are finishing up the borders. It's a little bit of a sickening process. We're really just kind of spinning around in a circle trying to make sure everything is good. We're placing down the steel supports for it because it don't want it to be a floating roof. And something that is actually kind of weird as well, it matches the teacups ride, but it also kind of matches the pattern of the Gravitron. I just kind of noticed that right now. Except for the yellow, the blue and the pink kind of go with it. So that's just something that I just kind of found out right now. But now we're gonna put in the second and final roller coaster for this park. I was kind of gonna do the mini coaster, and then I decided, well, it's probably not gonna be as thrilling as the junior coaster, and it's not gonna have as much of an output. So we're gonna place down the junior coaster instead. We're gonna do a spiral lift hill that will go over the path, and then it will basically go on the side of the log flume for most of the ride, and then it'll do a final double helix at the end and then come into the station. It doesn't have too much speed, has enough for a junior coaster, I would say. Nothing too crazy, nothing too intense, although it does have some good pops of airtime, I would say. And this ending was a little bit of a trial and error. I wanted to go into a big, big helix all the way down into the station, and I kind of just had to figure out how much track I needed to go. So basically, at the end, it will be going flying back over the path and then doing a double helix on the other side. But the problem with that is trying to gauge where the track needs to end at, going down the side of the pathing, and where it goes over the path, and then how far it needs to go out from the path to be able to fit in this double helix, and how high it needs to be. All that stuff kind of played a factor, and you can see I'm doing a bunch of trial and error here to get it done. But eventually it will be done, and this is actually the end stage right here where we're figuring it out eventually. And then we'll put in the queue, and then the station for this coaster I think is actually one of my favorite stations I've ever made. Not just because how simple it is, but it's also really easy to make, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, and it's very quick and efficient, and it actually looks really cool too. So the queue for this is basically almost all underground. It's in that concrete stuff. And I thought because I turned on the tunneling option for the pathing that it would keep those concrete stuff just to kind of say like, hey, this is the actual pathing, but it made it into this glass tube, which is kind of weird as well, but I just kind of went with it. And then we're going to be finishing that ride up. So that's pretty much the layout for that. We'll definitely give that one a ride in the mid-course along with the log flume, and that's pretty much all the track rides that we're going to have in this park. We'll look at everything else as well in the mid-course. But now we're doing the station, and this is probably the coolest one, as I've said. And the reason for this is we have this hedging on the side, and then we have this nice floating metal overhang. It's the hanger piece, and then bordered with some wood. So I think it looks really, really nice. And you can see there's a cut, and we're back to rain. And as I said, rain was a huge factor in this scenario, and it was a big, big part. So we placed down our next ride, which is the spiral slide. I was kind of hinting at that at the beginning of the scenario, where I wanted that to be in the middle of the big turnaround for the wooden coaster, and then the queue basically goes under that. And it's a really nice little queue. We did have to put a roof on there, even though it's under the wooden coaster. I wanted to make sure people weren't being able to get hit by floating objects, or not floating, but flying objects coming off from the wooden coaster. And another thing that we had to put back here was obviously a toilet stall. We needed that just to make sure that people were able to go to the bathroom in the front, the middle, and the back part of the park. And that's going to have the same exact roof and cover and all that stuff as the queue next to it. So that's going to be it for facilities as well in this scenario. We're going to do a little bit of facility work near the end for the little staff room that we placed at the very beginning of the scenario. And we're going in and putting our second to last ride in, which is this wipeout. Actually, we might not do the staff building stuff. That might have came later on just because I needed to do it, but I might have done that off camera. But the wipeout went in there, and we're going to be putting in one more ride for this scenario, which is this drop tower that we'll be getting in 1 second. So this drop tower will be the last thing, and we'll go to the mid-course. So as we head to the mid-course right now then. Alright, so we have just completed all the goals for this scenario, Biscayne Beach. We have done our first two and our last two with the optional goals. So we should be able to get the gold button for this park. And that's awesome. We got our confetti going on here. This is the very front of the park that we made in the mid-course. So why don't we scroll on down to the second half, with the exception of this ride, of course. This flying ride that I really want to ride, but at the same time, I don't think I could ride it. Why don't we just... You see they go up into this, and then they drop down, and they swing out. That's too crazy for me. As they load on over here, I don't think that can go down. So, why don't we scroll down over here. We can look at our log flume over here, which we will give a ride on, actually, once that's done. We have our Gravitron and our teacups ride, and then our nice junior coaster over here as well. So, we'll take a ride on this log flume that just left the station, actually. And as we're doing that, we can kind of... Didn't... Okay. No. That one. Okay. So, we're going to ride this guy. And then, well, we can kind of just talk about this scenario as a whole. We have a big operating or income, I guess you could say. $2,000 is a lot of money. We have 666 guests. That's a weird number to be at. But that's how much we have. I did have to take a loan at the very end. That's why we have $4,000 currently. And the reason for doing that is to make sure that I could get this launched drop tower that we put in at the end, get that in there quick and easy. And then as we're about halfway through the log flume, we'll go and take a ride on the junior coaster as well, and that's just that interaction with the wooden coaster that just went screaming by there. And I really like this log flume just because of how intertwined it is with this wooden coaster. You can see they're right next to it, and there could be another train coming by really soon for it, actually. But now it's this peaceful kind of turnaround here, no sound, nothing, just kind of going. And we'll go down the drop in 1 second. And another thing that you might notice that wasn't in the time lapse right now, just at the very bottom of the screen, if you got a glimpse of it, was a little cover there, and I'll talk about that in a second after we go down the huge drop. Wah, bang, splash down, and a little sculpture on the side right into the station. I probably could have made the queue a little bit longer, but I just wanted to use the same patio covering as we used for the carousel, save a bunch of money. So As I said, you might have noticed this covering here. I just did a little bit of interaction with the ride. So that's finishing up there, so we'll kind of look at something else really quick. We have our spiral slide in the middle here, really nice, although it got rid of all these supports here, which is a little nasty. And then we have our wipeout over here, and our launch drop tower, which has a really long line. So, that's pretty much all we did. We added a little shop over here just because people were hungry, and when we added some details to our staff room. So that's pretty much all the building we did. Let's ride this coaster now. It's a really nice coaster, actually. I think this is probably one of the better junior coasters I made in terms of like people coming to it and actually riding. You can see the line is actually into the underground part of the tunnel instead of just being in the outside part. And our swinging ship just broke down, but that's okay because we're not trying to ride that. So as we go down the big drop and under the path cover, or the cover, into an airtime, and then a little turnaround here that doesn't have any supports, and back dip under a different cover, airtime hill, turn, and slowly creep over the top of that part there, and then a nice helix, and it doesn't pick up too much speed, and then it slams into the station. Nice and easy. But that is Biscayne Beach for you guys, everybody. So with that being said, we can save and we can log out to the main part, the main path. Oh, none. Okay, so the reason why none of the nice trophy popped up is probably because I had finished the scenario before I did this little recording here. I accidentally finished it and wasn't able to save it in time and all that. So I guess I wasn't paying attention because I wanted to make sure I had it close enough to be done. So anyway, we got this nice little hut with a little patio and a little boardwalk here. Nothing too crazy, and we got our golden little button there for Biscayne Beach. So now we have two options. We have Highway Hijinks and Honey Hills. So I don't know which one will be next. 400 guests, no loans, operating profit of 2,000. That one seems super hard. And over here we have a few acres of flatland, 550, which is a step up, but an overall park rating of 80%. So this one seems way easier right off the bat. Now I'll probably end up doing highway hijinks, although it might seem a little bit difficult at the same time. So we'll see what happens there. So you guys can plan on that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode of Parkitect. We did Biscayne Beach. Thank you guys so much for watching, and make sure to have an amazing day.